Okay, thank you all for coming. I'd like to call the Bristol Metropolitan Planning Organization meeting, our quarterly meeting, to order. At this time, Rex, will you lead us off in taking the roll? I assume we need to take verbal roll call.
Correct. Tennessee Department of Transportation, we have Troy Ebert, present. Here. Virginia Department of Transportation, Blake Ayler.
Present.
For the City of Bristol, we have Tim Beavers representing Mr. Sora.
Here.
Bristol, Virginia, I don't think we have a representative. The town of Abingdon, Virginia, Jason Ball will call me. He has a medical emergency, so he will not be here. Supervisor McCall is present.
Here.
And Madam Chairman, Amber Torbett is here.
Here. Thank you so much.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next order of business, Rex, do you need to read the executive order summary for our virtual meeting? Do we need to enter that in?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Uh-huh.
As everyone's aware, both Tennessee and Virginia have suspended state law in reference to public meetings to allow governing bodies to conduct business by electronic means. And the governing body, in this case the MPO, should make a determination and vote accordingly that meeting is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare for all concerned in light of COVID-19 outbreak. If any of the members disagree that meeting electronically is appropriate, then the meeting should be adjourned until members can meet in person. For concurrence with this, I'll just do a roll call vote, with yes being yes, you do agree that meeting electronically is necessary. Mr. Ebert.
Aye.
Mr. Ayler.
Yes.
Mr. Beavers.
Yes.
Mr. McCall.
Yes.
And Amber Torbett.
Yes.
We're good.
All right. Thank you for that. Next on our agenda, as you can see, is the election of officers. We, I guess, do this every year, select a chairman and vice chairman from our voting members. And so I guess I'll open up the floor for nominations for chair and vice chair.
Madam Chair, I'd like to re-elect you as chairman, and I will take the vice chairman. This is Phil McCall.
Okay, thank you. Even though I was late to the meeting, I really appreciate the confidence. I apologize. Thank you. Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay. So we need, I guess it's every 2 years. Is that right, Rex? We do this?
That's correct.
Per the bylaws? Okay.
Did we have a second?
No, we do not.
I will second that motion.
Okay.
Troy Ebert.
Thank you, Troy. So the motion from Philip McCall is for Amber Torbett to continue serving as chair and Philip McCall to continue serving as vice chair for the next 2 years, seconded by Troy Ebert. Are there any other comments?
We need to put in there to go ahead and do the secretary if we're going to do a roll call on this, have the MPO coordinator as our secretary.
Well, the MPO.
Well, that's sort of a given. Oh, I'm sorry, Rex. Go ahead.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's just by bylaws, the position of the MPO coordinator is the permanent secretary.
Okay. I'm just going to do one last roll call.
Okay.
Thank you, Philip.
You can include it if you want to.
Oh.
No. Please carry on, Rex. You and your guys, you and Dave do a great job. All right. Any other comments? All right. All those in favor, I suppose, Rex, you need to take a roll call.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Ebert.
Aye.
Mr. Ayler.
Aye.
Mr. Beavers.
Aye.
Mr. McCall.
Aye.
And Madam Chairman.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, Rex emailed us the minutes and also mailed the board members the packet. I assume everyone had a chance to read the minutes. Are there any corrections or additions?
I'll make a motion to approve. Phil McCall.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion. It's Blake.
Thank you, Blake. All right. All those in favor, Rex, will you take the roll?
Mr. Ebert.
Aye.
Mr. Ayler.
Aye.
Mr. Beavers.
Aye.
Mr. McCall.
Aye.
And Ms. Dorgan.
Aye. Okay, at this time, we normally open up the floor for anyone who has public comment on any matter on the agenda or otherwise. Let's see, we have 14 participants. Does anyone have any matters that they would like to share with it? Okay, thank you. Our next item of business is agenda item number 7, and that is the adoption of the safety performance targets for Tdot and Vdot. It looks like we have 2 separate resolutions to vote on, but I'll turn it over to Rex or Dave, whoever is going to share the summary and update on that.
Thank you. Just for a brief background, the implementation of performance-based planning has been a priority at the federal level for some time, beginning with MAP 21 legislation and continuing with the FAST Act. The intent is to refocus project decision-making on performance-based planning, basically measuring the effectiveness of investments in transportation. There's been a number of rulemakings on performance measures, and today several of these are on the agenda, including the safety performance measures, bridge and pavement condition performance measures, system performance measures, and transit agency safety measures. So it's a performance-based agenda, I guess. Starting with the safety performance targets, annually the state DOT is required to submit performance targets to the FHWA through their Highway Safety Improvement Program. These targets are based on the number of fatalities, the fatality rate, number of serious injuries, serious injury rate, and the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. For 2021, these are the targets that projected for Tennessee Department of Transportation. And these are all based on a 5-year rolling average. So every year the baseline number changes as well as the targets. For Virginia, the same situation. However, Virginia, they drilled the number down a little further. They take the percent change percent change at the state level and apply that percentage to the MPO area. So we have a little more specific target for the MPO. The MPO can adopt their own safety targets, or they can adopt the state targets. And typically, due to the technical requirements and staff participation to do independent targets from the state, we recommend adopting the state DOT targets. And because we're a multi-state MPO, we adopt the resolutions both for Virginia and Tennessee based on the metropolitan planning area. And as with all the targets today, by adopting the state, it means we agree to plan and program projects as applicable to achieve those targets. So resolution 2101 is for the Tdot targets, and the Vdot targets is 2102. I would think it would be fine if you want to make a motion to adopt both of these in one vote.
Okay. Do we have any comments on either of these? Anyone want to add?
We're doing both resolutions together.
Yes, sir.
All right, I only had one question is what is a non-motorized fatality or injury? Is that bicycles?
Bicycle, pedestrian.
Okay.
That also includes off-road vehicles like ATVs and that sort of thing are also included in those totals.
Okay.
Anything else? Can I have a nomination to, a motion to accept resolution 2101 and 2102 per staff's recommendations?
Amber, this is Troy Everett from Tdot. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Troy. Can I have a second?
This is Blake. I'll second that motion.
Perfect. Thank you, Blake. All right. I guess we'll take a roll call again, Troy, or Rex, if you don't mind.
Mr. Ebert.
Aye.
Mr. Ayler.
Aye.
Mr. Beavers.
Aye.
Mr. McCall.
Aye.
And Madam Chairman.
Aye. All right, both resolutions passed unanimously. Thank you all so much. I guess we've been schooled on this many times now, so thank you all in the past for that information. All right, next on the agenda is item number 8, and this one is the adjustment of performance targets for infrastructure condition and system performance, both for Tdot and Vdot. So Rex, fill us in on this, please.
Just as you mentioned, both Tdot and MPOs have to establish baseline data and performance targets for infrastructure condition, which is pavement condition and bridge condition, and system performance, which is based on travel time reliability. In response to this, back in 2018, we adopted 4-year targets that were developed by Tdot and Vdot. I do want to mention that these targets only apply to the national highway system. And for us, that includes the interstate and basically the state routes. These are the 4-year targets that were adopted. Interstate pavement in good and poor condition, non-interstate NHS in good and poor condition, percent of NHS bridges in good and poor condition, system performance, the percent of reliable person miles on the interstate and the non-interstate NHS, and freight reliability of the interstate. And as I mentioned, we adopted these 4-year targets back in 2018. However, the state gets the opportunity to adjust these when they submit their state biennial performance report. Adjustments to the Tdot performance targets include the percent of non-interstate NHS in poor condition and the travel time reliability index. There's only one adjustment for the Vdot performance targets, which is the percent of NHS bridges by deck area in good condition. I don't know how well you can see this, but this is the Tennessee performance targets. You can see all the 4-year targets and the 2 that are being adjusted. Percent of payment on non-interstate NHS in poor condition is going from 4% to 5%. And the travel time reliability index is going from 1.33 to 1.37. Now that travel time reliability, that is a very complicated mathematical statistical calculation that is above my math level, but I do know that anything below 1.5 is considered to be reliable. This is the Vdot.
Say that again, Rex. Anything below 1.5 is considered to be what?
Reliable.
Oh, reliable. Okay.
Here's the Virginia targets, and only one of them that's being adjusted. The percent of NHS bridges classified in good conditions is going from 33% to 30.5%.
I've got one question, Rex. Are we lowering our standards for percent of interstate in good condition? I noticed Tennessee there is 57. No, that's you got Virginia per now. Virginia's 57.9% in 2 years and 45% in 4 years. Is that lowering our standards?
Wait a second.
You understand what I'm saying?
No.
It's on the Vdot biennial performance report. It's the very first one, percent of payments of the interstate system in good condition.
Okay.
You're saying for a 2-year condition is 57%, and a 4-year target is 45%.
Correct. That would be, that's percent in good condition. That would be lowering it. Is that not correct, Blake?
Yeah, that would actually be a positive. I know it looks like a negative when you look at the chart, and sometimes it's a little hard to understand these percentages, but that baseline that you see that we've had at 45%, we approved that, I believe, last year at the MPO level. So that's actually, I know it's weird when you look at these numbers, but I believe that's actually a positive thing that you see that number going to 45% as opposed to 57.9. And then today, the only one that we're actually adjusting and or modifying would be the one highlighted in yellow.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
This is the same situation as the safety performance targets. We can adopt our own, but these are the technical requirements. We recommend that MPO adopt the state targets. And once again, we would be adopting each state's performance targets pertinent to their area in the MPO planning area. So it's Tennessee Resolution 2103 and Virginia Resolution 2104.
Okay, can I have a motion to that effect?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion we approve these 2 resolutions.
Thank you, Phil. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tim. All right, Rex, can you take the roll for our vote?
Mr. Ebert.
Aye.
Mr. Ayler.
Aye.
Mr. Beavers.
Aye.
Mr. McCall.
Aye.
Madam Chairman.
Aye. Okay, thank you all. Next, we have item number 9 on your agenda, and this one is the adoption of transit safety plans and performance targets. So for our transit agencies, both for Tdot and DRPT. Remind me what DRPT is, Rex.
That is the Department of Rail and Public Transportation in Virginia.
Okay.
Which is a completely separate department from Vdot.
Okay.
But basically, the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan is a requirement now for anybody that receives Federal Transit Administration FTA funding, which is basically our transit agencies. In response to this, both Tdot and DRPT have developed the agency safety plan on behalf of the smaller transportation providers. In this case, in our planning area, this is represented by Bristol, Tennessee Transit, NetTrans, Bristol, Virginia Transit, and Mountain Links Transit. As part of the agency safety plan, they're required to adopt safety performance targets. These are related to the number of reportable fatalities and the fatality rate, the number of reportable injuries and injury rate, the number of safety events and safety rate per 100,000 vehicle revenue miles, and the mean distance between major mechanical failures. For planning purposes, the MPO in turn is required to incorporate these targets within the MPO transportation planning process, basically the Transportation Improvement Program and the Long Range Transportation Plan. There, the safety targets for our 4 agencies, you can see that everyone is projecting 0 fatalities, which is a good thing, but by and large, the numbers are pretty low. And staff would recommend that we go ahead and adopt the statewide public transportation agency safety plans and performance targets that were developed by Tdot and the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation. And once again, we have separate resolutions for each state, 2105 for Tennessee and 2106 for Virginia.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion, please.
I'd make a motion to adopt Resolution 2105 and Resolution 2106.
Thank you, Tim. Can I have a second?
Hey, Amber, it's Blake. I second that motion.
Thank you, Blake. Rex, will you take the roll?
Mr. Ebert.
Aye.
Mr. Ayler.
Aye.
Mr. Beavers.
Aye.
Mr. McCall.
Aye.
And Madam Chairman.
Aye. Great. A lot of information. Thank you all so much. So lastly on our agenda are the updates from staff and our Federal Highway Administration and Tdot and Vdot. So in order on the agenda, Rex, do you have anything to update us on our current projects?
I just have a couple of things. Typically, this time of year, Tdot sends us a list of our state-sponsored projects, and we are asked to prioritize those projects. In our case, we only have one state project listed. It's the same as last year, and so if you recall, this is the crosstown route using Cardinal Hollow, Highway 126, and an upgrade to Walnut Hill Road. This is our only state listed project. This is part of the Improve Act. So I'm assuming that I'll just submit a letter to the Tdot saying we still support the project. And for your reference, that project has already started the NEPA phase. They've been doing archaeological assessment. The other.
Can you put that map back on the screen? I know we've talked about this many times. So everyone in that corridor must have received a letter from Tdot, because I've received phone calls in my office. And thankfully I knew enough about it, and then of course relied on David to refresh me and give me more updates. But just so you all know, the public has received their letters from Tdot. I didn't get a copy of that letter, but I'm glad that Tdot did send out letters to all the landowners. It threw some of our county commissioners for a curveball because they were not made aware of it, and that's my fault. I should have communicated, but I didn't know the timing on that. So I guess if there are any other letters sent out from Tdot on this, maybe if the MPO could get a copy so we could share with county mayor and commissioners of that district so they're in the loop, that would be helpful.
This is Dave Metzger. According to the letter that was sent out, which was sent within a certain number of feet of this corridor, I'm not sure what that is, but according to the letter, unless they've fallen behind schedule, the archaeological work should be complete as far as the field work is concerned.
I know that the city, I think the only reason we recognized it was going on was the city really received letters because we own property in that corridor as far as a sewer pump station.
Yes, that's correct. We also received a letter for it because of the Exide Drive Fire Station.
Hey, Rex, David, it's Blake. Just a weird question here. I think this is a fantastic project. I know at my time at Bristol, this was very important, and living, below this region in Piney Flats, this is a fantastic project. I was just curiosity. The intersection with Island Road and Route 11, in correlation with the ramps, is there going to be any improvements made there as part of this project, or overall maybe as part of a different project?
I can answer that if you'd like, Blake. This is David. The overall plan for what's going to go on there is once the connection is made of this project between Highway 11W and Walnut Hill Road, that will allow us to close the median opening at Highway 11W and Island Road, so that all the turns in and out of there are going to be right in, right out only, because the new road will substitute for that Island Road connection.
That is a huge relief. David, I think I've mentioned that before with that Mitch Cox development of apartment complex right at that intersection. You have, well, my sister lives there, so I hear about it every day, how dangerous that intersection is where people are trying to get into the Pinnacle to work or go shopping or go back towards Bluntville. So I'm happy to hear it'll be a right in, right out. Then I don't guess you know where the alignment will be for the new intersection of Island Road and 11W. Do you have any idea? Will it be by the fire station or?
The alignment of the road is determined in part by what the findings are from this archaeological survey. There will also be parallel studies to look at historical properties, to look at wetlands, to look at critical infrastructure like electrical substations and those sort of things. The input of all that is what helps to develop what the alternative alignment would be. So it's too early at this stage to make that alignment.
Okay.
The intent, Amber, is to extend Pinnacle Parkway by the fire station and then connect to Island Road there where Walnut Hill Road connects.
Okay.
But once again, that is TBD, to be determined based on all the NEPA studies and the, once they get into the design of the project.
Right. There's a big mountain in between those 2 points that were mentioned. Yeah. So I guess you need to get around, which is part of the blind view too. So thank you all very much.
Will there be a new bridge built across Interstate 81 for this project?
It goes under the interstate.
Under it, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we're presuming it's going to be using the where Walnut Hill Road goes underneath the interstate.
Okay.
This is all very good. Thank you all very much. Okay, Rex, I'm sorry to dominate the questions. Carry on.
The only other item I have is we're in the process of updating our long-range transportation plan. And part of that process is updating the travel demand model for the region. And that's currently ongoing. I'll let David give us a brief update on where we stand on that.
All righty. Thank you, Rex. Of course, we've contracted with the firm, or actually Tdot has contracted with the firm McKinley Horn & Associates to do our travel demand model, which this is, I believe, the 3rd time around that they've done our model. which is a great advantage to us because it helps to build upon what we've done in the past. To do the model, you basically build a base year model so that if you input the land use and population and employment and this kind of thing into the model and run it, you calibrate it so that the traffic counts come out for a known date. And for us, the base year is 2016. So Kimley Horn is in the process right now of building that model with 2016 population, 2016 employment, 2016 school enrollment, 2016 traffic counts. And if all goes well and it's calibrated, when you put in the input, those traffic counts have to come within a certain number of percentage points of the actual traffic counts based on Federal Highway Administration standards. Once that step is complete, we update the model to account for the projects that were done in the last couple of years or what's been committed to be built financially, even though they haven't been built yet, like what's going on up at Exit 19 up in Abingdon and this sort of thing. Once that's complete, then you start looking at the future projects and what's going to go on and the future forecasting, which is the year 2045. The local staff here with me and with also the Kingsport and Johnson City MPOs have been working on this demographic data in conjunction with the modelers who are building the statewide travel demand model for the state of Tennessee, which is the firm KCI. And so a lot of the projections and such that they have done, we're able to build upon that because the local model should match a statewide model. And so in working with the 3 MPOs, we've worked out what the allocations of population and employment should be for Sullivan County, because Sullivan County is split between the 3 MPOs, and also for the Virginia portion within the Tennessee statewide model, because even though it's a Tennessee statewide model, it does cover a number of areas outside of Tennessee, including the entirety of the Bristol study area. So that's the stage that we're at right now, is with Kimley Horn building that 2016 baseline model, which is where a big part of the work goes on as far as calibrating the model and this kind of stuff. To do the building of a future model, they'll take the demographic data that we provide them and build the model. And that's an easier part than building the initial model itself. So that's where we're at this point. In fact, I had long email conversations with Kimley Horn yesterday about trying to work out what's going to happen with the schools in Sullivan County, because where we've closed Weaver School, we've closed Holston Valley, we've closed Bluff City, built this new middle school, and all the different kind of enrollment changes that are going on with that and what those traffic impacts will be.
David, so speaking of Bluff City, I'm sure you're aware that it is now the Community Impact Center, or Impact Community Center. So it's the headquarters for Fellowship of Christian Athletes for Sullivan County, and it is the headquarters for all junior sports. I'm there actually every single day, and they redid the parking lot, but there's still going to be there won't be buses, but there's still a lot of traffic from parents dropping off kids for practice and pickup. They also have community space, and it also will be a site for a regional history museum that I'm a part of. So it's an exciting place. It's still has a lot of traffic in and out. So I don't know if that means anything for traffic modeling, but it's not a dead space, unlike Weaver Elementary that seems to be vacant again. So.
Well, the accounting for what's happening with the schools depends on the location. Mm-hmm. In the 1990 census, Bluff City and Piney Flats were part of the Bristol MPO study area, as it was for 2000. In 2010, the Census Bureau changed the rules as to how they determine urbanized areas. And as part of that determination, the boundary between Johnson City study area and Bristol study area moved from the Piney Flats Crossroads to the South Fork of the Holston River. So while the town of Bluff City is still covered in an urbanized or in a study area, it's now transferred to Johnson Cities.
Right.
And so they'll be the one that'll be modeling that part. The impact it has on us is the population that was north of the river that went to that school that is now going to Sullivan East Middle, and our model accounts for that part.
Okay. And then Holston Valley Middle, is that in our area? Because that too is another community center.
It is.
Okay. So he just bought the Holston Valley Middle School, and it'll be another community impact center with sports and after school care and things like that. So anyway, you probably already knew that.
So yeah, there's a lot of things we're looking at as far as the model. Probably one of the more complicated ones we're dealing with in the future model is trying to accurately model all the impacts of the coming casino and all the impact that it has on that. I've had a number of discussions with Blake up at Vdot, especially with the exit 1 interchange, and trying to work out some of the mathematical equations that we need to deal with the casino, because it's a whole different type of trip type than we've seen there before.
Very good. Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Next, do we have any updates from our Federal Highway Administration or the FTA?
Yeah, hi, Ms. Torbett. This is Sean Santaya with the Federal Highway Administration Tennessee Division. Just a few items. As you can see, we're still working from home. I am overdue for a quarantine haircut, but FHWA is still carrying out our business. The new administration is working to fill positions. Secretary Peter Buttigieg has been confirmed by the U.S. Senate with his first day on the job yesterday. FHWA has a new deputy administrator, kind of our second in command for our agency, and that is Miss Stephanie Pollock. She was previously the CEO of the Massachusetts DOT, so we're looking forward to having someone on board in leadership that has that state DOT experience and is going to be able to provide that perspective to our operations. Some announcements on funding, and I apologize for those that have already heard this. But as most everyone is aware, there was additional infrastructure funding provided through the most recent Appropriations Act with the the coronavirus response and relief. So we've got in direct response to coronavirus relief, $10 billion nationally was provided for transportation infrastructure. Of that, about $209.6 million is coming to Tennessee. And that's going to be relatively flexible funding, similar eligibilities to the STBG, the current STBG program, with some expanded eligibilities for even staff salaries, preventative maintenance, and additional flexibility to recoup revenue losses as a result of the pandemic. And unique to that funding is that it can be obligated up to 100% federal share. So that is significant and different than our usual process. Then we've also got, in addition to that, the Appropriations Act provided another $2 billion of what we refer to as highway infrastructure program funding. $2 billion nationally, $29.6 million of that is coming to Tennessee. And again, that's funding that's got those similar sort of flexible STBG eligibilities. Electric vehicle charging infrastructure is an eligible use of that funding. And that is a traditional 80-20 federal share. So just wanted to make those announcements. We want to thank the MPO, Rex, David, and the board for continuing to carry out the great work in response to the pandemic, being flexible. Congratulations, Ms. Torbett and Mr. McCall, on your reelection as board officers. And then I really want to thank you guys for going through that target setting process that we just went through. As Rex mentioned, this is in direct response to the federal requirements. So we always appreciate the considerate and thoughtful actions that you guys take in addressing those requirements. Those are the only updates that we have, Madam Chair. So happy to take any questions.
Very good. Thank you so much. Okay. I don't hear any other comments, so we'll move on to Tdot. Troy, do you have any, or Rhonda, do you have anything to share with us?
Well, I don't have a lot of updates for this one from our last meeting. Our multimodal grants and different things are rolling out. The only thing I guess I'll add here is you all will be starting receiving letters from us probably in the next 60 to 90 days about our resurfacing program. We sent out letters, and Rhonda sent them out last year to all the agencies that had a state route that we were going to be resurfacing. We did that for the immediate year. This time we will be sending it out for 3 years at a time. So if you have something that's coming within 3 years, we'll have that out. Randy Bustler is our coordinator, and his lists are very solid. There might be, if something were to come up, we might need to move something around, or let's say we have a project in Blumpville that might tear the road up. So we might put that off a year until you can get your project completed, and then we can come back and, put the icing on the cake. Because the cake will taste great, but if we don't get the icing just right, those lines just perfectly straight, then we're going to get, you want to make sure it all comes out really nice. So we work hard on that to make sure that we coordinate those, but that will be 3 years at a time. But the advantage of the 3 years, if there are any communities that are looking at road diets or, additional multimodal facilities, anything like that, it'll give you a longer period of time to start working through that. It'll also help the utilities to try to plan their projects a little bit more as well. Now, the 3-year plan, 3-year resurfacing list is listed. It's already posted on the website. But there may be some changes to it. So we will have the letters out to everybody as far as what's going on with those. The long range transportation plan that we had scheduled for this year is actually going to be pushed off just a little bit. We're going to be looking at congestion in the big 4 MPOs prior to, and then we're going to go through and do the full long range plan after that, probably the following year. And those are the big things that I've got for y'all.
So Troy, you mentioned the resurfacing schedule, and Blumpville is in Bristol's MPO area, thank goodness. And just an update on our multimodal grant that you all recommended for me, and I appreciate that. We just underwent, I think we're complete now with our NEPA phase. And we had basically another year added on to the NEPA phase because the state archaeologists required an additional shovel testing because Blumpville is in the Battle of Blumpville Civil War historic site. So it's now designated an archaeological site. And so, but good for the project, bad for history. They didn't find any Civil War buttons or artifacts in the right-of-way, as we knew, with the resurfacing over the decades of our little main street, which is Highway 126, with the multimodal project is, just to remind you all, is a sidewalk from the historic structures by the courthouse all the way down historic Highway 126 towards Bristol, and with a roundabout, and then ends at the Blumpville Library. So it's just less than a mile of new sidewalk infrastructure plus the roundabout. So we already did an archaeological study in 2010, and the state actually hired the same firm, New South and Associates, to do another archaeological study. So I think we're good. I think we're covered, and they didn't find anything of value. So we got our letter of approval from SHPO, Pat McIntyre. So I think we're good. And our engineers are still working on engineering. So that's where we are on our 2018 multimodal, and now it's 2021. But it took a while to get through NEPA, as it always does. So with that, Troy, obviously we don't want the resurfacing of 126 and Blumpville until after the sidewalk construction, which you know. So thank you.
Madam Chairman, this is KB, Assistant Director with Long Range Planning. I have an update to add to what Troy just said, and I think Sean also touched on it a little bit. As you know, with the COVID relief appropriation bill that extended FAST Act, there was some additional COVID relief funds that were made available to the MPOs and the four large MPOs, to the state, and the 4 large MPOs in the state of Tennessee, and mostly all the MPOs with population 200,000 and above. The legislation did not set aside any specific funding through this funding bill for the smaller MPOs, but Tdot leadership have had a conversation about the situation and decided to sub-allocate some of the state funds to all the smaller MPOs. And I believe there's a letter that is supposed to be coming out pretty soon, either this week or early next week. And I wanted to update you all to look out for that letter. I don't want to give any details out yet, but there is some funding coming to Bristol and all the smaller MPOs for projects as part of the COVID relief authorization bill for 2021. That's all I wanted to share for the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take whatever we can get. Appreciate it. All right. Any other updates from Tdot? Okay. How about Vdot? Blake, do you have anything to share?
I do. This time, usually I'm pretty quiet, but this time I have a list of items, and I promise I'll try to go through these as quick as I possibly can for everyone. The first one is our Smart Scale preliminary staff recommended funding results was just announced a few weeks ago. Just for those that aren't familiar with Smart Scale in Virginia, this is how we primarily fund our roadway projects in Virginia. It is a competitive-based process that localities apply and/or MPOs and PDCs for that funding. It is divvied out in two different funding pots, if you will. One is a district grant pot that only your district goes after. Then there is a statewide high priority pot that you can go after as you compete across the state. So with that being said, typically we only receive roughly $22 million in our district grant pot. However, there has been supplemental district grant funding given to the districts for the coming years, and that took our funding to a total of $72.9 million for this round of Smart Scale. That is a significant jump, obviously. We're extremely excited about that funding. With that being said, we were able this round, as it currently sits right now, to fund 15 projects. We do have $10.7 million remaining, and I do anticipate we will more than likely fund 1 to 2 more additional projects with that remaining money. However, that is up to our CTB member. So the way the money broke down this round, 14 of those 15 projects came out of that district grant pot. One of our projects came out of the high priority pot, and we're certainly excited because this is the first time we have hit that pot outright ever in the history of Smart Scale. And that project that was awarded was a little over $16 million. So that is certainly something to be happy about in regards to Smart Scale. Now that's the overall for Smart Scale. So I will talk about the 2 projects that fall within the MPO region that is specific to the MPO. And these recs will be the 2 projects you need to look for as we go forward in getting them folded in. One of those, very excited to say that an additional portion of Route 11 has now been funded. This is something that I know the MPO and everyone in the region has been looking to do. We have been trying to finish that gap that we have between the falls and the other side of the Walmart Supercenter going back down to Chick-fil-A. So we have a left out portion that roughly the part that we were able to fund will go basically from the train trestles down just past Bonham Road. It will tie back in down and around in that section. The other section, the remaining piece that will run in front of Starbucks was placed in this round. It did not win. However, it scored very high. And there are some ways that Vdot can work with the MPO and the city to put that back in next round. And I'm fairly confident and hopeful that it will get funded, which will finish the last gap we have in our Route 11 widening project, which will be exciting. The other project that we were able to get funded or assist Abington to get funded, it's certainly not something that I got funded, but was a roundabout project that's up near Abington High School, and as you turn to go over to the middle school, and it is at the intersection of Thompson Drive and Stanley Street. And that will be a pretty neat project. One I know the town was very interested in, and one they wanted to go after. And as we know, innovative intersections and Smart Scale score high So that was certainly something that was able to hit the mark, if you will, and was able to push it to the top. That altogether, I'll let you know that those numbers brought in almost $19 million. Those two projects were close to $19 million, which is very exciting to know that we're still funding large projects with the smart scale money, and certainly large projects that are of need. So I do have a couple of other items to talk about, but I will ask now before I get too far down the road. Does anybody have any questions on smart scale and the funding scenario that was put out?
Blake, you indicated that there's money left, so you're anticipating they'll be funding more projects?
Correct. Well, and that's a great question, Rex. What they typically do when you get to your last funded project, what has happened is they will only look at the next project in line. And if the money you have remaining won't cover it, they stop. So that process stops at that point. So we stopped at our 15th project, which left us with 10.7 million. The very next project was a lot greater than 10.7 million. So with that being said, our CTB member typically works themselves down the list and will just go to the next potential funding ones until they run out. I can't say that's what the CTB member will do this round. If he takes that route, it would fund 2 additional projects, which would take us to a total of 17, and that is half of the projects that were put in this round will be funded.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So if no other questions, and if you think of one, or if you think about the funding scenario, there was a lot of changes. We have had a lot of questions about scores, but if there's any questions on that later that come to mind, just let me know, interrupt me, no problem. I'll run through the rest of this as quick as I can. One announcement we have at TMPD and at Vdot is that we have given the availability of MetroQuest to be utilized by the MPOs. MetroQuest, as many probably know, is one of the most robust surveying softwares that there is out there. We use it with all of our studies that we do at Vdot. So they have granted that ability for the MPOs to utilize it. I will say there is a caveat, and one that we are trying to learn about. There is the potential that our subscription we have will not allow that surveying tool to be used on anything that involves Tennessee. Certainly something that I'm not happy about. But I represent 2 MPOs that are multi-jurisdictional, that are controlled by Tennessee, and that's just not fair. One of the largest MPOs on the East Coast at Washington, D.C. is a multi-jurisdictional MPO that is not controlled by Virginia. And I can't imagine we've told them no. But if we did, then we're sound across the board. But I want to try to make this to where the MPO can truly utilize it, because it's a great tool. And if you can't use it for your entire boundary, then there's really no reason to give you access to it. So, to be continued. I will certainly find out and keep pushing for that to be utilized across the entire MPO boundary.
Blake?
Yep.
Blake, just for reference, we're very interested in using that with their long-range transportation plan update that we're in that process right now. So,
okay.
If any way we can get that approved to use it for the whole planning area, would be a great resource for us.
Okay, and I'll certainly, that was my big push, Rex. I think you've seen in one of my emails to the gentleman at central office that controls that subscription service. And the biggest component I've seen was both Kingsport is looking to use it as well. And of course, they had a large thought process for public involvement, and this kind of helped change what they may be able to do. And certainly MetroQuest is made for transportation planning. That's what it was designed for. So, I'll do my best, Rex. Don't let it fall off my radar here in a few weeks. If you've not heard anything, we're really starting to get in crunch time and needing some sort of answers. I will continue to push. I'm hopeful that we'll be successful. One of the other items that I've spoke to Rex about, as well as the Kingsport MTPO, and I'll be mentioning it to them later today, there is currently an MOA between Kingsport and Tdot and Bristol and Tdot, signed by both parties, and that is language and a guide of how you process tip actions. And it really helps break down the gray area, because federal law right now, as I know Sean's probably aware, it gives guidance, but there is a lot of gray area in there. And when you're talking about groupings and certain things, sometimes it can be difficult to realize, does board action truly need to be taken or does it not? Well, Vdot and Tdot process their TIP actions completely different. We group almost everything at Vdot that can be grouped, and therefore, technically, it's only supposed to take administrative action. So the board doesn't have to take any sort of movement on that. Rex can make the change, and then the project is not hindered or held up for an MPO meeting in any way. So through doing TIP actions with our latest update, a lot of questions came out, and there was a lot of gray area, and Vdot, unfortunately, is just, they don't want to give anything that is ever perceived as legal guidance, so they will not give guidance to the MPOs as, is that an administrative staff action or is it board action? They will not tell. So sometimes you're left reading between those gray areas. And I think Tdot's is absolutely fantastic, the MOA that they have, and I tip my hat to them. That's something that we should be doing as public stewards. And I took that to Vdot. They liked it, but they are not willing to take that and do that at any of their MPOs or sign anything of that nature. So you're talking with them. One thing we can do, and one thing I'm going to ask Rex to take a look at, is they start to work their way out of a long-range plan. That's a tedious process. I don't want to, throw this out there because it's not as important as that by no means, but I would like to see if we could draft some sort of policy or procedure at the MPO level in regards to TIP action. And it could be just for Virginia, since the MOA with Tennessee's there, to help shine some light on that gray area, if you will. And I think it would definitely be helpful whenever we have TIP actions come up and modifications occur. But something to think about, and I know something me and Rex at a further date will talk about. I just kind of wanted to let everybody know if you start to hear about it, that's kind of our thought process to get us there. The other one, just a couple more things real quick. I wanted to see, we all know about the Bristol Casino. I wish the city would have had a representative from Virginia on here today. I would anticipate or hope that the city is asking the casino to produce a TIA. Since that is not a Virginia-controlled, technically, Bristol oversees the roadways, so we're not going to be forcing them to produce a TIA on VDOT's standpoint. It would have to come from the city. We need a TIA to know what the impact that casino is going to have, not only on the Virginia portion, but specifically also on the Tennessee side, and how that impacts the MPO roadways, because it will have an impact. We did a small traffic assessment, VDOT did, very small, and it only looked at exit 1 because that was our primary facility that would be impacted. We didn't look at anything else because it was VDOT funds producing that study, and we really just wanted to try to take care of our exit and take a look at it. That casino will have a lot greater impact than just our exit. So we wanted to make sure that if it, surely a TIA is being produced by the city or by the developer, and we want to make sure that the MPO is hopefully a reviewing member of that TIA as well as the DOTs, because what happens is going to impact a lot of our transportation network in and around that area. So just wanted to put it on the MPO's radar, and maybe you can have conversations with, with the city of Bristol, Virginia as being a member of the MPO. If I have conversations with them, I'm going to be asking that VDOT looks at it, but I don't have the muscle of asking for the MPO. So just wanted to keep that in everybody's the back of their mind, because based on what I have seen and the data that I have ran and looked at, significant impact. A great impact for our area overall. I won't get into whether anybody approves of casinos or not, but as far as the economic impact that it will have will be significant. But we got to make sure we don't hinder our roadways in that effort. Another item that I wanted to update you all on, as you all are aware, we are studying Piedmont and the bridge structure. there's not been an update on this in a long time, and I know Troy's ears have probably perked up a little bit. I would like to have an offline conversation with Troy and Rex to go a little deeper, but I will give you a 2,000-foot level synopsis of where we're at. That study has changed twice now as we've been looking at it with the city of Bristol, Virginia, and we haven't came back to our study work group because there have been many moving parts. So I will let you know that there has been movement occur where Vdot will be now pre-scoping that structure for the city. That effort hasn't 100% started. We're trying to get that figured out, and we're getting in that direction. So bear with us. We will come back to our study work group, which obviously involves the city of Bristol, Tennessee, the city of Bristol, Virginia, and Tdot. We will get back with you all and give you an update when we know what that pre-scoping effort is going to entail. But right now we're working on a draft document to put out on the street to find a firm capable of doing the pre-scoping effort, because this is going to be special to say the least. The city of Bristol, Virginia is aware of this, but I wanted to make sure the DOT and Tim, specifically you and Rex, can talk to Bill and give him an update on where it's going, because I think you all understand the pre-scoping effort, will be significant part, and that's kind of what's been missing up to date. We are currently in the middle, so you all are aware, and we will share with you when we're done, an environmental study that only relates to the gray bat population. It is looking at noise, vibration, and relative humidity in regards to that colony. We have found out, I will go ahead and let you know, and you'll get the final data later on, but a little bit of a blow here, and Tdot, do listen up on this piece. That is not only a gray bat maternal colony where they raise their young. We have found out that they are using that as a hibernation area. So we have found a significant amount of bats that are hibernating in there right now. That is the first time in history of that structure that we've ever seen that, just so you all realize what magnitude that has. That is gray bats that are hibernating and a maternal colony in there, which means your construction limits will be greatly impacted. We'll share our study with both Tennessee, Tdot, and Bristol whenever we get it done, so you all can take a look at that. And that's kind of, in a nutshell, where we're at. A lot of different things going on, but if anybody has any questions about Smart Scale, Piedmont, anything that you know about the casino, just let me know.
And Blake, on the Piedmont and Troy, have y'all been discussing doing the State Street Bridge quicker than the rest of the structure?
So now, one more time, Tim.
Repairs that are needed, the replacement of the State Street Bridge, have y'all discussed that as doing separate from the actual Piedmont rest of the culvert, because that bridge is not getting any better? And I think Tdot's ready to move on that in their bridge, through their bridge program, but half of that's in Virginia, Vdot.
Right. So part of what our pre-scoping effort will do, and like I said, the actual request has not made it out onto the market yet to find someone to do that effort. And I'll be honest, that pre-scoping effort is so large, I don't think until we get a consultant, we can't just concentrate on one piece first. Unfortunately, they'll look at the entire structure to start with. We will try to concentrate on that section and make it a priority, but I will say in Virginia's world, right now, the way it's set up, the only way to fund that structure is state of good repair, and you cannot use state of good repair to piecemeal a structure. So state of good repair money can't be used just to replace one component of an entire structure, because they look at that as one entire structure, even though there are multiple floating components of that structure. So it's going to be kind of difficult. We do want to work with Tdot. I will tell you, there is going to be some significant bad issues in that section. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be as easy as going out there and just swapping it out and replacing it. The big thing that we're wanting to look at right now, and what our pre-scoping effort, the first thing it's going to look at is, can we rehab the structure and get it out of the structurally deficient status? That'll be the first thing it looks at. And if it thinks we can, that'll be the path we go. If it can't, then we're in a brand new ball game of how do we replace this structure. So a lot of moving parts, but I'll definitely let them know, Tim. I'll let the bridge guys know and let whoever we get as a consultant know. That's going to be the big talks with Tdot. Is that's a funded project, and we have to see what do we have down there and how can we, be a good partner with Tennessee. And we'll pass that along to central office. We already have up to this point that there is a funded project down there. So we'll certainly keep that, try to keep that at the top of our list.
Flake, this is David. I do believe that the replacement of that State Street part of the bridge was also part of the Improve Act passed by the Tennessee legislature.
That's correct. Not speaking for Tdot, but that is correct from what I've read and looked at. That was how it was funded.
Yeah, that's it's on there. Basically, what we've been looking at on our side is we've been holding back to wait and see what comes up with the Vdot study. We're there. We're just waiting on the environmental part. So we need to get our environmental folks together, and that way they have the update and know how we need to proceed.
And I will say, be patient. I know that's hard to say with our study. We anticipate the pre-scoping effort of this study won't finish until the later part of 2022.
Thanks for the updates there.
Not a problem. And let me know if you all have any additional questions. We will meet back with the study work group, which I know is almost everyone on this call, in the coming weeks. When we get our document to put out on the street, that's took a special effort just to be able, there's never been a request like this, and this type of study may be something that has technically not been done with all of the intricacies involved with it. It's going to be special. So we'll get back with y'all and give you a lot more detail later on.
Thanks,
and Amber,
Mike.
that's all I had.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, are there any other comments before we adjourn? Okay, that was a lot of info. Thank you all. Well, our next meeting time is May 6th at 10 a.m. So put that in your calendars and phone. And unless we need to have a special called meeting, I guess, but that will be our next scheduled meeting. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Phil, so move.
Thanks, Phil. Do we need a second to adjourn? We'll take a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, thanks, Troy. Well, you all take care. Do we need a roll call vote to adjourn, Rex, or are we good?
No, we're good.
Okay, very good. Nice to see you all. Thanks for coming and sharing your updates.